Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and hoping everybody can see us, see me. Welcome, welcome. If you're seeing this already, I want to kindly ask you to share the live with your friends, share the live with somebody who you know might or needs to hear that particular program tonight and to view me and to view my guest, to view us. Let me say happy independence to Dominica and any place that you're celebrating your independence. Obviously, there's a lot of activities happening, I do know, throughout the island, throughout the region, throughout the world, but you have to take time out for what we're about to do tonight. So I welcome all of you who are already here. If you're here, feel free to just send me a little message, say hello, say hi. Definitely, it is a pleasure to have all of you here again on in an evening when we're just going to have another authentic exchange where we just dialogue with an authentic person and a person who has an authentic story to share with the world. A story that can inspire, a story that can educate, and a story that can motivate another person, especially a young person, to get into something that they have a deep passion for, regardless of obstacles that they might face. So, my name is Caesarina Paul. You can call me C's, people call me C's. Caesarina is fine also. It's my pleasure to be here with you all tonight, and I'm not going to waste any much time. My guest is already here. I know he had a busy day, although he had a good holiday, I'm sure, but he's always busy. So I want to make sure that he is also comfortable. So of course, I see one person is saying hello to us already. Hi, Kozo. Thank you so much. Thank you for showing up and for being here. And that means you're hearing us. I want to take it that you're hearing us, hearing me. Sorry. I start saying us already because my guest is already there. So I as if I'm talking to him. So I'm not going to waste any time, ladies and gentlemen, friends. I'm going to bring on my guest. I'm so excited to talk to tonight. It's not funny. Hi, Doc. I've been dying to say hi, Doc. Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Paul. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. It is
Good
good to
evening
see
to
you.
you. Thank you so much, and it's good to see you too. Good evening to all your viewers, those who are viewing live and those who will view it later on.
That's right. That's right. Yes, for definitely, we know some people will view it later. As I said earlier in my intro, there are a lot of people doing a lot of things all over the island right now, and of course throughout the world. So people are everywhere. But this is streamed on the YouTube channel Authentic Exchange by Cesarina and Paul, and also on my Facebook pages, both C's Paul and also on Cesarina M Paul. So feel free, and I'm sure you can share this on your page as well so that your friends and other people can follow. So certainly they will be able to go back and hear what we have to share tonight. So I want to say, if anybody is viewing, please take the time, share the live so that somebody else can know that we're on tonight. It's a pleasure to have you, Doc.
Pleasure is all mine.
All right, so we know that your name is Dr. Devon Malcolm Brewster.
Yes.
Everybody can see the DR here. When I put on the banner, and I'm gonna put it on for like a few seconds, it all the letters behind the name really caught my attention. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. He has a BMSc, which I think it's a bachelor's of medicine, medical science,
Medical science, yes.
right? And then he has an MBBS, which I don't know what that is, medical something board. Is that it?
That's a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery.
Ah, oh my goodness.
And is in
And
the
then
last
he,
form.
okay, and then he has a master's in public health,
Yes.
newly acquired master's in public health. You can possibly walk us through these three important, um, I would say, credentials. They are not merely letters, they are credentials, they are things that we know that you have worked towards. But
Okay.
tell us a little bit about you, Doc, first of all. Who are
Okay.
you? Give us a little backstory about yourself, please.
Well, I am Devon Malcolm Brewster. I am a young man, a child of God, and I happen to be a medical doctor among many other things about me that I think are far more interesting. I am a musician. I play the organ primarily, as well as the the piano and stirpan. I have a deep interest in public health, interest in chronic disease management, chronic non-communicable diseases. I also have interest in politics, world affairs, public commentary, and I love the great outdoors as a true Dominican. I live in Jamaica. I've been living here for 9 years. I came here to study, and I've been here since. I graduated in 2022 with my Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery. The first degree there, which is a Bachelor of Medical Sciences, is actually a degree that is awarded after the third year of training at the UWI. I'm following the British system. It used to be automatic for all students, whether or not you progress to the clinical aspect of medical training. They recently adjusted it. So for example, when it is someone starts a program now, if they go all the way to the 5 years, then they just get one degree, which is a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery. But my year, I think, was the penultimate year where, whether or not you proceed, you get that first degree. And I just graduated. Well, I'm about to graduate rather, but my degree was awarded for a Master of Public Health, which I started in 2023 while working as a full-time senior house officer. But I was passionate about it. I did 90% of everything in the first year, and I took a break as I transitioned from the public sector to the private sector as a general practitioner. And then I took back up the last component, which was the research earlier this year, and completed that. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Wow, quite a few steps here, and I like that they're awarding you all for at least work acquired even prior to getting to the actual finish line of like the actual bachelor's of medicine.
Oh,
You're giving you that. Yeah, I think that's good.
what
Um,
it does is that it gives students a way out. So sometimes students may determine that after the first 3 years they don't really want to be a doctor because unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, very intentionally, we live in a society that really and truly traditionally limits students in terms of what are the professions that are markers of success. And unfortunately, being a medical doctor is one such profession. I think it's contrary to the reality, which is that there are a whole heap of other paths that children should be encouraged to explore to live a fulfilling life. So if it is that you happen to realize by third year that you're not willing to become a doctor, you can leave with a Bachelor of Medical Sciences that can, it doesn't leave you to start back at ground zero. So I think that's an amazing thing.
yes, and it's modern. It's sort of adjusting to the times, I would say. So yeah. So whose child are you?
Oh,
I, I
that
believe in that. I believe in that because I know these people are very important to you. I want to ensure that the world knows whose child you are, where you're from, homegrown. Yeah.
Yes. So I am. First of all, no disrespect to my parents, who I love. I just presume that majority of the listeners would know, but you're right. I am from the Commonwealth of Dominica, particularly from Portsmouth. Guatas. My parents are Julian Brewster, my father, former mayor of Portsmouth, and Junie Brewster. She's from Wesley, but she immigrated to Portsmouth and lived out her career as a nurse, retiring as community health nurse, a public health nurse, and so you could see my inspiration for masters in public health.
I was going there. I was going there because my next question at some point would be and will be public health. All it told me is your mom's influence on your life. But prior to going to these great and wonderful achievements of which we are extremely proud, and I believe it's a bravo to you for being so hardworking and focused. I want to tell the folks that 5 years ago I had an interview with you, and you were in a different chair, and it was a time when you were driven, you were determined, you had a very good heart for your country, for the region, for medicine, but you were going through a tough time. Between that 5 years and today, or I don't know if there is a way you can, in a synopsis, in a few minutes, can you give folks a picture of your journey? I don't want you to like extend it, but just, is there a way you can tell people, look, this is where I was and before I got to this? How can you do that?
I can definitely do that for you, Ms. Paul.
You
So,
be good.
first of all, I want us to go back to the very day that we actually had that interview. I don't remember the date. What I do remember is that I was traveling that day from Dominica. I was heading back to Jamaica, and I had stopped over in St. Croix. I'd actually left Dominica on one of the small planes because it was in the height of the pandemic, when Jamaica had its first case of coronavirus. I flew out immediately because I did not want to get stuck. And I was in Dominica for about 4 or 5 months. And for me, it was priority number one to get out as soon as I can. Not because I don't love my country, because I'm sure by the end of this interview, everyone will be convinced, will definitely not be in doubt of my love for my country. But having been in Jamaica at that time for 3 years, working as a musician to make ends meet, doing other business ventures. I had a tutoring company. I sold T-shirts and did vinyl printing, and was very much a hustler to make my dreams work. It just felt I felt like I overstayed my time in Dominica, where I did not have those opportunities. Worse, in the pandemic, and had to get out. But that specific context, I think it summarizes where I was then. A medical student, at the time, struggling to find the money that was required to pay my tuition annually. That is 28,000 US dollars. What caused that? Well, we all know that Hurricane Maria struck Dominica in 2017 September, which was about 2 weeks after I started my medical school journey. So as you can imagine, there are complications associated with that would affect not just me and my family, but the entire country. While I intentionally never seek to dwell on it, the reality as well is that is not the only factor that caused me to struggle financially. But I always believe that life is based on perspective, and we can choose the vantage point the lens through which we want to look at history. And the lens through which I choose to look at the history of my journey is not through what people did to me or did not do to me, what they gave to me or did not give to me, but what people did who had no obligation whatsoever to rally around an alien meaning someone who came to a country with no familial ties, to someone who is just a brother. A lot of the people who supported me were not just Methodist brothers and sisters from across the Caribbean and the Americas and the world, but in the ecumenical family across denominational lines. People believed in me and supported me in multiple ways, and not just financially. And it is those collective efforts that have resulted in me successfully completing my degree, my medical studies rather, in 2022. It was a result of hard work and determination, yes, but definitely could not have done it without a solid community that made everything possible.
And this is a perfect example of the village must raise the child. I know sometimes when we speak about the village raising the child, we're talking about discipline particularly, or ensuring that a child is not going astray. But in your case, it was not you. You were, and you were one of those young persons that anybody would say, "Oh, he's such a good young boy. Oh, he's such a good young man. He's so positive. He's such an example." So there was nothing like, I don't think there was fear in people about discipline and whether you would go to school, and or whether you would bend the corner and do something else. I think for us it was, this man is driven. We've known him from small. We believe he has what it takes to achieve his goals. He has a passion. Let us push him. Let us support. So for me, that is a typical example of the village raises the child, and that's exactly what happened for you. And so I
Absolutely.
remember when I heard you, I don't know how. I think it's just in back and forth little messages when you were planning a concert. I was like, my heart was moved. I was like, no, we need to publicize this. Let more people get on board and see how we can get people to help you. So obviously, we never spoke after in terms of what really happened with the fundraiser. Obviously, we know that it came through because it somehow it had maybe not all the money that you needed, but it was able to help somehow to get you to that point.
I could give a bit of insight on that. So in terms of, so the first thing is how much money I had to raise. I had to raise 28,000 US dollars every year. I believe in my second year, I did get a single installment payment from the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica, which I'm forever grateful for, of 22,000 US dollars. I also had a student loan from the aid bank that I'm still repaying. That that ought to have covered 20% of my tuition, on the presumption that the government would supply the other 80%. So I had that 20% for sure every year, and of one of those years I had the 80% from the government. So that left 80% to be found for 4 years, and so essentially what I did is I utilized a very important principle that my mother instilled in all of us as children. My mother, for all my life, my mother has been a nurse, right? She's been a midwife.
Mhm.
And then later on, she went to Barbados to do further studies to become a public health nurse. But really and truly, my mother has always been an entrepreneur because my mother learned to sew from her mother. And uh, growing up, I always saw her sewing clothes for people in the community. Sometimes people who are overseas, they're traveling and they, send them measurements or whatever and stuff. My mother also taught people to sew at one point in time. And she always said to all of us that you have to learn a skill because the skills are what is going to make you make money in the future. That is what she always said. And
Mhm.
because of that, I think all of us as children have some skill or another that really and truly, if push come to shove, and whatever school afforded us don't work out, we should be fine. So
Mhm.
for me, I used my skill as a musician, my aptitude for entrepreneurship. My first business was actually in PSS. I remember a friend of mine, her house had burned down, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start printing stuff for students to help raise funds to help her out. I raised the funds and gave that over to them, and I was like, well, the need still exists. And so I continued printing for people and refilling ink. I started doing that, and so that was my first business. And so I to use the aptitude from that to monetize my skills as a musician, as someone who is gifted with his hands, and use that to you know finance my day to day. But then when it came to actually raising funds for the tuition outside of persons who actually donated
Mhm.
money, I did several fundraising events. As a musician active in the creative industry in Kingston in particular, I was able to bring together persons who I had worked with throughout my journey up to that point, which would have been for 3 years in Kingston, and put together a world-class concert. And that was successful. I did it again
Yeah.
at the University Chapel. That time it was much bigger again, and the intention was to bring it to Dominica. There was an artist from Jamaica that was coming, and then there was COVID.
COVID. I remember that. Yeah.
So we couldn't.
Yeah. I was getting excited about being part of that concert as well
Right, yeah, and you
myself.
were supposed to be part of it too.
Yes, I was supposed to perform.
Yes, yes. But it was not God's will for it to happen.
Yeah.
And I went back to Jamaica again, and for the last push, like literally my last fundraiser was two
Mhm.
weeks before my final exam.
Okay.
It was the National Dance Theatre Company of Jamaica, which is Jamaica's premier dance company, renowned throughout the world.
Mhm.
um, they offered me a benefit night, and so I bought it and I sold tickets, and that was my last last effort to take me over the end, over the finish line, and I was able to get through. It was the theater was packed, and up on top of that, just people were just motivated by my determination to give a
Mm-hmm.
final push, even so close. Because remember, this is the biggest exams of my life,
Yeah.
and it's 2 weeks away, and I'm putting on a big fundraiser. I have to also be studying as well. But again, I thank God for the community that I have. Friends.
I don't know how you did it. Two
Well,
weeks before your final exam,
I know how
and
I
you're
did
doing
it.
something.
I
Yeah,
know how I did it. I did it with the help of God and with the help of
that's it.
people
Yeah.
that God placed around me. Because my friends, my closest friends, today have been my closest friends from first day of medical school,
Mm.
week of medical school. And so they were right behind me, selling tickets and all this kind of stuff. While, in the evening we are on Zoom having study sessions and all this
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. My friends, they went to the trenches with me. And so the victory at the end was all of ours to share.
That's great. That's great. Again, how much we need community to survive. And community is not always, well, it's I'm from Vekas or I'm from Tibo, and so my people from that place are my community. But community being the people that we stumble upon in life, the people who become first timers in our lives, but eventually become long term people in our lives. Okay, so you have a community around you who support you. Had one before who supported you. You have one now who continues to support you. That's really really good to hear.
Absolutely.
Mhm. There is a Jane saying, "Congratulations, Dr. Brewster. I always knew you had it in you. To God be the glory." Amen. I don't know if you know who Jane that is, but
Yes, I know who that is. That's Jane Alexis. That's my grade K teacher, my only.
ah, this is good.
Everybody,
Yes,
and everybody at
yes.
home knows that I had two favorite teachers at St. John's School,
Uh huh.
and Miss Alexis was one of them.
Oh, that's it. Okay, so she must be very proud of you
I'm
as a
sure
past
she is.
student. She must be extremely proud of you. Thank you, Jane. Nice to have you share with us tonight, of course, and for the congratulatory messages. They're welcome, of course, to Dr. Brewster. I think he deserves to be congratulated on just sticking to the goal, sticking to his plan, and actually pursuing them, making them reality. Today you're a doctor. How does that feel? What is the experience like for you, Doc?
Okay. It feels great to be a medical doctor. It feels great that I'm a medical doctor by choice, and by choice and by destiny. By choice meaning that I knew I wanted to be a doctor.
Hmm.
Actually, I cannot say that I wanted to be a doctor from childhood. To up to really and truly up until when I actually my last year of state college, I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a medical doctor. I sure I wanted to do something in sciences. And I applied for medical school, and I thought I had got in. I booked my flight to Jamaica and everything. All of that good stuff, and I did not get into medical school, and I was depressed. But God took me on a path that led me to Westmoreland, Jamaica, where I lived for a year before starting medical school.
That is so amazing. That whole year.
For a whole year,
That
for
whole
someone
year.
did not want to do a gap year at all. End up in the country part of Jamaica, no
Yes.
family, but I
Right.
had family by choice.
Yes.
And in that year, I got confirmation that, yeah, this is what I needed to do.
Hmm.
And so, having gone through all what I went through and now being done, I have an immense sense of duty. I'm feeling
Hmm.
that, that my vocation as a medical doctor is a calling on my life. And so, at, at the forefront of everything, when I interact with all of my patients, my goal is to be a blessing to them. My goal is
Yeah.
to make some positive impact on their well-being. And so for me, I wake up every morning excited about the fact that I get to do this. People come into my office, or I go to their homes because I do home visits as well. And I realized that, you know, you're confronting people, or people are coming to you at their most vulnerable point, right? They don't know anything about you. They definitely don't know who my mother and my father are.
That's true.
All they know is that I have a DR in front of my name.
Mm-hmm.
That alone, they're coming to me hoping that whatever I do, or whatever I order, or whatever instructions that I give is going to help make them better. And they come to you in a vulnerable. I think that that is a very humbling experience. I could not imagine the opposite, which is where it makes me feel haughty and all important and like,
Mm-hmm.
because for me that sort of posture as a medical doctor is incongruent with the spirit of the profession, right? To do no harm, and to be a light and life into someone's day. And so I am happy that I'm a medical doctor, and especially having been the beneficiary of people's benevolence for this entire 5 years, enough that could have sent five other students to do five different types of undergraduate degrees. That's the amount that was invested in me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a point in my life where I want to become the best that I can possibly be. Obviously, I want to eat. Obviously, I want to, live comfortably. I cannot confess that I have any desire of becoming a massively rich man. But I definitely want to be able to have a similar impact on the world as the world has had on me, to leave the world much better than I came and met it.
Most
So
certainly. I think this is very noble, and of course, it is good that you've recognized, hey, I'm here now. I did not become this on my own or alone. There were people, there was a community, as you said, a village that surrounded me, that supported me. And so while I'm grateful, while I'm happy, I recognize that it is a calling on my life to give back. So, as you said, humility, which is a very important value, it's a virtue, it's a value, it's something that we all have to continue to work towards. It's something that we have to put into practice in our everyday work. And it's great to hear you say that at this point, with all your achievements, that your goal is to ensure that you remain thankful and humble. I hear gratitude. I hear
of
gratitude from that expression. As you said, there are so many people to be grateful for. Um, in terms of your music, do you still play music today? Do you still play at the church
I,
with your busy doctor schedule now? Or how is that for you?
yes, I do. I do still get to play. I play every single weekend, believe it or not.
It's great.
So I have the I suppose the fortune, and I suppose I also just align my life that way, of being flexible. I worked in the
Mhm.
public sector for the minimum amount of time that is required, which is, I mean, I could have really just done 1 year as an intern. I did 2 years internship and then senior officership, and then I said bye to the public sector.
Any
And
any particular reason?
oh, many reasons.
Okay.
uh,
Anything you can share
oh,
comfortably?
absolutely, I have absolutely
Mhm.
no problem with that.
Mhm.
Um, so several reasons that I left the public sector. Chief among them is just wanting to be master of my own time. I'm involved in so many things. People always wonder how I do it, and people make a big deal out of it. For me, it's not really a big deal. I've just always kind of like been like that, and it's kind of part of what keeps me going and being engaged in wholesome and meaningful activities that edifies me and helps, others. So I'm involved in many things, and so that requires me to be, flexible, be able to, say, okay, in this season, I'm giving most of my attention to A, B, and C will take a back burner, and then another season, we reshuffle and that sort of stuff. So that was the chief thing. The other thing is that, first of all, make no mistake, working as a medical doctor is not easy, especially in the public sector, especially in our reality as third world countries. Jamaicans have this saying, turn and make fashion, meaning that you make something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not an excuse, and it definitely is not one of those situations where people say, but this is how it is in the US, or this is how it is in whatever and stuff. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of the realities that are faced in the public healthcare system in Dominica are pretty much similar elsewhere. And so you're serving a big population of limited resources, and the patient don't want to hear that the Ministry of Health didn't supply enough money to buy paracetamol or whatever and stuff. They just want to be fixed, and you're the one who have to face the brunt of that. I really and truly felt that in a private sector, I would have the autonomy to curate the kind of medicine that I want to practice. I'm able to curate an environment that is not toxic. And I'm able to curate an environment where I can have the maximum impact in the lives of persons. And yeah, if I'm going to give my all, which I will always do, I never do things if I'm not willing to give my all, but face the consequences that come with that, because the truth is that living that kind of lifestyle to be that for so many others can sometimes come at consequence to your own if you're not careful. If I'm going to do all of that sacrifice, I'm going to do that for something that I can say at the end of the day is mine, that I can be proud of, that I can have a hand in shaping to have maximum impact. And for me, that is my little home visit business where I go to people yard all hours of day and night. That is Arden Medical, where I get to see patients of all different sort of backgrounds, and that is just me making use of tools at my disposal to bring light and life.
That's great. So it's sort of like entrepreneurship. Um, do you have a clinic, a separate clinic apart from doing home visits? Do you have a particular clinic that you function from?
Right. So Arden Medical is my primary office. Arden Medical is a partnership with two other medical doctors, Dr. Leopold Powell and Dr. Tracia James Powell. They are both independently bright, wonderful people. He is a general surgeon. She is a pediatrician, and they happen to also be married. And so I have the wonderful opportunity to work with them. And Arden Medical is as old as my career in private practice, in sole private practice. And so we're building this together. And it serves as the base for my home care services that I offer, which is where I basically bring as much of the hospital to people's homes as is legally, morally, and ethically possible.
Mhm.
We're living in a time where we have an aging population. We have resources that remain limited, and they're becoming more and more limited as demands increase and the pressures on the public healthcare system continue to get worse and worse. It therefore means that it behoves us to be creative and innovative, and so have identified that as a niche market that I'm currently developing into a full service home-based company that can bring together allied healthcare workers, not just medical doctors, but nurses, pharmacists, physiotherapists, you name it, can be done at home. You can get it through my company that I'll be launching soon, which is Pocket Health. So the base of that practice is here at Arden Medical. The precursor of that company is what I've been working on ever since I left the public healthcare system. And now I'm putting together a team together that in 2026 will launch out and,
So,
do
it's called Pocket what again?
Pocket Health. So,
Pocket Health. Yeah, yeah,
so
Pocket Health.
I
So
that the care walks with you. So you have your healthcare
okay,
professional in your back. Yeah.
nice. Do you have to report to some higher authority once you do this, though? Is there like
Well,
an organization, some health
so
organization?
there's each healthcare profession has its regulatory agency. So for example, as a medical doctor, my regulatory agency would be the Medical Council of Jamaica. The nurses have similar, pharmacists, physiotherapists, and as you go down the line, you find that either there are professional organizations, regulatory organizations that already exist, or they are in the pipeline. So there is that sort of oversight, and then just generally, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has jurisdiction over public and private healthcare. Obviously and understandably, their hand will be much more limited in the private sector. But really and truly, it's just the applicable laws, whether it be from a compliance perspective with healthcare to compliance with business and that sort of stuff, and just general consumer affairs. All of these are governed by various agencies within the society, and that helps to keep you in check, whatever the nature of a business is. But there's not currently any specific regulatory agency for private medical facilities in Jamaica.
Okay. All right. So that means you have to be even more vigilant
Oh,
and
absolutely.
very,
Absolutely.
very vigilant and ensure that you're walking the correct line as much as possible.
Absolutely. And have good medical indemnity insurance.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah, but that is good to know. And of course, it's great that you're not just thinking about just functioning within just the public service, but that you're looking further to see how you can reach more people, maybe in a different way, rather than waiting on as you said, the public sector
Anyway,
cabinets. Yeah,
by the way, just to say, absolutely not throwing any
yeah,
water on public sector at all. In fact,
got you.
I do think that maybe at some point I would go back in the public sector, just probably more from an administrative managerial perspective, more than clinical. But again, you never say never, because you don't know what opportunities may come.
That's
But
it. Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable in my path through private practice, and yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth a try, and you're giving it a try. So thus far, it seems to be working out. In a nutshell, would you about how many patients do you think you have currently?
Currently, well, I mean, that's kind of difficult to quantify, because sometimes, I mean, what qualifies as whether someone is a patient of yours? Is
I
it?
think I think I'm talking about those who you constantly see.
Oh,
Like you have
well,
yeah, scheduled appointments. Yeah.
I would say a conservative figure would be anywhere from 120 to 200. Of
Talk.
course, with different my various practices.
That's
That's
amazing.
also I
Yeah.
also my client base is very diverse in terms of age. It's literally from cradle to the grave. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are different nuances based on various age groups, and that would affect the frequency with which you see patients and that sort of stuff. But definitely, I don't think I'm anywhere close to my target in terms of patient load. But I'm working hard, and I've evidenced some past experience of myself and other persons that once you're consistent,
Mm-hmm.
then success will be a portion. And so I'm trying to do that. It's not easy, because adulting is hard.
Yeah.
Adulting
Yeah.
is
Welcome to the world. Welcome to the world of adulting, the hard world of adulting. It is
Yeah,
hard.
the other
It
day
is
I told the other day I told my mom, like, I don't know how I feel about the fact that you hid the fact that adulting was so hard, because as children you don't know the stress that your parents going through.
Yeah, yeah.
But to be quite honest, if I should have a little vulnerable moment, I feel like this year has been like my first official year of like full on adulting. I don't know. It just feels like it's been the
Yeah.
hardest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I look back on the last 10 months, I could mention a whole heap of things that I could cry about, bad
Yeah.
things that happened.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, I could speak of amazing things that happened in that period of time.
Mhm.
And then you're like, what is there to cry about? But I really think that tension of the positive and the negative, the good and the bad, the light and darkness, that is the flavor of life. It is an inescapable reality of life. And the best ones, or those who survive, are those who are best able to navigate that tension between the good and the bad that constitutes adulting. But boy, I give God thanks every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally, that I had amazing parents. I have rather not had. I have
Mm-hmm.
amazing parents who was such an example of what it is to first of all raise children who are ready to take on the world. Obviously, my parents are not perfect. No one is perfect, but they are just an amazing bunch of people who, to this day, we still maintain a very very close relationship. My parents are my biggest supporters. One of the things is that my father especially insisted that every child in his house has a, you can speak, you just be respectful, but you speak your mind. And so I'm not afraid to disagree with my parents to disagree with me. We just agree to disagree if we don't agree, but that my parents are just a call away any time of the day or the night is a blessing that I don't take for granted.
That's
And
great.
I love them,
That's
and I
great.
just thank God for them.
I'm sure that they love you so much, and they are sitting and wondering, did we raise this boy? Yes, you did. Yes, you did raise this boy. You did. We raised a young man who is so focused, so strong, who is adulting now and recognizes even more how much blessings you have placed in his life by just being good parents. And that's one of the things that a lot of our children are lacking. Some people have both parents and they still do not have a solid foundation.
Yeah.
But your parents being people who always have been hardworking, very grounded, even in their ways, and very much integrated into community, regardless of what it is that they had to do. They were always so involved in something in the community that today they have raised people like you. I saw your brother just a few minutes ago playing with a band, rhythm knockers, somewhere in Roseville. All know, so maybe probably they're just wrapping up their set.
Right.
But he too a musician.
Yes.
Play Dion, I think that's his name.
Yes.
He's
Yes. They are.
playing, yeah, he's playing with rhythm knockers right now as
Yeah.
we're
That's fun.
probably a little before that. So definitely you all have skills and are very much
And
into
then
those
my
areas.
brother, my brother, my brother Nigel is also a musician and
There
plays
we
the
go.
drums and plays the keyboard as well. He's of the three of us, he's the most reserved. He's definitely
Mhm.
the introvert. But some way somehow we all turned out to be musicians. And all we have to show as any historical connection to music is stories of my father as a past drummer, but I've never witnessed I've never witnessed his competence in drumming.
Your dad was a drummer?
That's what he says.
Mr. Brewster, you're hiding. You're
you know,
hiding things. Let me draw your attention, though. I put this on the screen. Mrs. Hannah
uh,
Dupini, who is very much, you could say, an elder of your church, the church
absolutely.
that grew you, the church that you were born into, and the church that you served even while you were home, and whenever you come home, you serve. Mrs. Hannah Dupini, she says congratulations to you. You make her very proud with your achievement. And of course, she's extending Godspeed that will lead you not just to where you are, but to higher heights. I know Mrs. Dupini, I know she's extremely proud of you today.
Mm. She
And that's probably something that a lot of the elders in the church can all express, as a matter of
Yes,
fact.
absolutely. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for my church community. Um, I grew up as a Methodist, and I still am a Methodist by choice.
Yes.
And again, a lot of the people who have supported me throughout the years are these persons, and especially when I think of people like Sister Hannah Dupini and Sister Elaine Africa, these are people
Hmm.
who literally held me in their hands,
Yep.
and literally watched me, and not just watched me grow, but helped me to grow. And that, at every juncture, like now, where I'm reflecting on, my success in the last few years, leading up to getting a master's degree, I think of people like Sister Hannah Dupini, who I have countless stories of different things that I could use as evidence of such an inspiration she has been to me, alongside many other persons. And it's not just Methodists in Dominica.
Hmm.
But I was fortunate enough to do a lot of traveling as someone active in youth ministry. And so there are Methodists all across the Caribbean, the Americas, all across the world, even, who, have been a consistent tower of strength and support for me.
That's
Mhm.
great, and I believe you're holding on to that, which is your root spiritually, is also a vital part to your success. I know sometimes people say, "What God that? What church that?" But at the end of the day, I'm sure that you will attest that to the fact that your faith, which grounded you so much, has certainly contributed very strongly to the success that you now are, the success that you have achieved thus far, and the success that will be yours in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I find it difficult to go through what I've been through and question the existence of God. Uh, Obviously, we're not going into details tonight,
Mm-hmm.
but I could point to so many examples where things aligned, and you never knew the connection between something that happened 3 years ago. But then God just shows up, and those things are reminders that even before your problem, came to light, I knew it, and I sorted it out from since then. I didn't wait for you to come and ask me. I started working on it from before. So you need to trust me. Now, the challenge is that we as humans, part of the human experience is again another tension. Tension. So initially we spoke about tension between the good and
Mm-hmm.
bad that happens in life. Another critical tension is a tension between the spiritual and the temporal. Right? So we are human, and we are called to trust in a God who changes things, a God who makes the impossible possible, a God who promises never to leave us nor forsake us. And we, as believers, have to contend with the reality that, as part of our human experience, bad things do happen,
Mm-hmm.
and challenges do come. And there are moments where I can point to multiple moments where I doubted whether God was really on my side. But every single time I took one step forward, God just pushed me, and then I'm down again, and then I wonder, Lord, how am I gonna get through this? And then I have some novel idea, and I say, you know what, I'm gonna push through this. And then God just take it an extra mile. And so I had to, I have to definitely, in looking back, credit my faith
Mm-hmm.
for helping to keep me grounded. And though, yes, I am a Christian, and I remember earlier I said that I'm Methodist by choice because and part of growing up is reviewing everything that you know and you have been taught as a child. And that is, again, something else that my father insisted that at some point you have to do that. That is part of, your graduating from childhood to adulthood. And so my theology has evolved a lot over the years as I mature. But certainly that foundation that I got first at home, then at church from persons like Hannah Dupini and Elaine Africa and Irosa Wade and Leanne Irish Wade and all those wonderful ladies, um,
Yes.
all of these coalesce into who I am today, whether it be and definitely it's a mixture of things that I kept, things that I dashed away, things that I add, my own experience and everything. But that is life. And so I'm grateful for my spiritual foundation as a fundamental part of my journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I noted that thank you for sharing that. Definitely, I appreciate the whole faith foundation. As I said, I've always known you as a very grounded person in that way. So I'm happy to know that you're still holding on to that, which is your foundation. That's very crucial. One of the things I wanted to ask of you is I know that you said that you do have a degree in is it bachelor's in surgical practice.
Bachelor of medicine, bachelor of surgery.
Okay, so in that aspect of your studies, do you get to practice any any bit of surgery? How prolific, you know, are you in this, or is this something that you think you would specialize in going forward? Is
Okay,
the
so
yeah?
Well, first of all, the Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, which is the abbreviated the abbreviation is MBBS because the
Yeah.
abbreviation is based on the Latin formation. That
Hmm.
is really just the British version of a medical degree. So the US would call it just MD. They call it
Yeah.
MBBS, right?
Yeah.
What it involves is basic competencies in medicine, internal medicine, and medical specialties.
Hmm.
A foundation in surgical specialties, right? Now, surgery is more than just cutting and
Yeah.
stitching up, right?
Yeah.
So, so management of a diabetic foot, for example, is
Hmm.
surgical, right? Popping an abscess, stitching up a wound after some sort of injury,
Hmm.
or ulcers that elderly patients tend to get when they're not turned as frequent as they can. The care of that, all
Yeah.
that is involved in the surgical aspects of stuff. Taking off a toenail when you have ingrown
Oh
toenail,
my God.
all of that, yeah. All these are the surgical aspects of general practice that an MBBS prepares you for, right? But really and truly, a general practitioner in terms of how the healthcare system is supposed to work, a general practitioner is supposed to be a gateway to every specialty, right? So
Mhm.
part of the competence of a general practitioner goes beyond just being able to do stuff, but being able to recognize when there are stuff beyond your competence to do and appropriately directing the patient to the specialist care, right?
Okay.
So that is a big aspect of it too, not just
Mhm.
what can be done, but what
Mhm.
you know that you cannot do. Because as we know, he that what know not and knows not that he knows not is a fool, right? And
It's
in
very
my
scary.
yeah,
Yes.
that is that can be the difference between life or death.
Yeah.
So you have to know when it is that you
When
need
to
to.
make referrals, when to send the. Okay, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair. All
yes.
right. Because I thought about it, but because I know that we've had some very good surgeons, in Dominica, for example, in the past, and of course, some of them have moved on to the great beyond. Some of them are no longer here with us, and they were very distinguished people like Dr. Sorindo, who was a gynecologist, but he was extremely, he was very good. I think we had Dr. Pauls, who
Right.
probably at this point is more maybe I don't. Dr. Paul is retired, I think, or I'm hoping he's still there, but not probably he's probably not functioning at this time. But I just thought I would ask the question because it caught my attention.
Oh, well,
Um,
and actually, to answer the second part of the question, which is with regards to specialization, as it stands at the moment, I don't have any immediate desire for specialization. What I would say though is if I do specialize, which again I might just wake up tomorrow and feel that I'm ready to specialize,
yeah.
um, it likely would be in family medicine. I I don't. I definitely would not commit myself to any residency program, which is the training that you undergo to become a specialist. At this time, for the main fact that, again, because of the amount of things I'm involved in, that I would have to intentionally take a back seat from at minimum for 4 years. I don't think my mental health would be able to take that. But also too because I think that, as I mentioned earlier, that there are far more interesting things about me than being a medical doctor.
That's
And I
right.
am committed to living a life that is wholesome and balanced. And I think that really actually, in fact, as when I played the organ even more, I made more money per hour as a musician than I did as a junior doctor, right? Um,
Yes.
yeah. So I just think that I can definitely utilize my all my skills together or in part because that's one of the interesting things I love about my job. As a home doctor, it affords me the opportunity to bring together multiple things that I'm involved in. So, for example, if I go to a patient's house and they have a piano, best believe I'm going to go on that piano and we're going to sing, right?
Yes.
Right
Yes.
now, I have two patients that once I go to their house, part of the therapy
Is to
is
play for them.
yeah, we close and we by singing one, two, three songs or hymns. and that is therapeutic for me.
That's
It's
great.
therapeutic for them, and I'm able to bring, all my skills together. So that is some premium thing that,
Yeah.
I find greater joy from being able
Hmm.
to do
Hmm.
that,
So,
than in the hospital.
I'm hearing a minister here. I'm hearing pure ministry going on. I'm not just going to do my medical thing and get out, but I'm actually ministering to the people who I serve on a daily basis. That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
Absolutely. As I said before, I think being a medical doctor is definitely a calling on my life, and definitely not just a job. It definitely is a calling on my life, and it's an opportunity for ministry, but it's a specific kind of ministry. It is not the kind of militant crusade trying to
Yeah.
get people
Yeah.
to convert to
Hmm.
Christianity kind of ministry. It is
Hmm.
a ministry of love that transcends every single boundary. Because there's one thing to be legally obligated not to discriminate. There's another thing to be morally obligated not to discriminate. But it's a whole other kettle of fish spiritually, to be all embracing. And I think that is the kind of ministry that I feel I'm called to, one whereby I can bring the light of Christ that shines through my life and through my ministry, without chugging it down someone's throat. At minimum, they should leave um, experiencing a kind of love that they may not have ever experienced before, and wonder where it comes from. And if they have the audacity to ask me, which many
Hmm.
of them do because they feel so comfortable, then I can say to them, yes, I am a Bible believing Christian who tries to walk on the straight and narrow. I'm absolutely not perfect, and I don't ever try to portray,
Yeah.
sort of, saintly innocence. But I try, and
So
I definitely try to intentionally make, light of Christ shine through my practice as a medical doctor.
very good, very excellent. That is good news as well. Have you had any bad experiences as a doctor that maybe really struck you hard, um, broke you down? I know that's probably asking like for you to be a bit vulnerable, but
That is
would you be able to share that? Yeah.
perfectly fine. In fact, I can name countless experiences, countless bad experiences. I say bad in quotation because
Hmm.
in reality, from a literal perspective, they are bad things. But again, if you choose to look at it solely through a positive lens, then you can always find something positive to take from bad
Hmm.
experiences. I can think of an experience in particular, one in private and one in public practice. In public practice, just I remember just having one patient who they just could not afford the medications that they needed. And the team of junior doctors at the time, went out of our way, and we decided that we're going to put money together to get the medication that this patient needs, because we just had so much confidence that, once they get that medication, they can at least get on a
Hmm.
positive trajectory, in terms
Yeah.
of, their health. And we got the medication, and the patient still died. You know,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that was definitely traumatic, but because of the
Hmm.
complication. But then there are a few moments in my career thus far, short as it has been thus far, 3 years, where
Hmm.
I had to administer care to persons that were dear to me. Right?
Yeah.
One such experience as well was a lady from my church who, she was just so encouraging. She contributed a lot of just she downloaded a lot into my life,
Hmm.
positive energy and that kind of stuff, even while I was going through my challenges. And
Yeah.
she was on a dying bed on the same ward that I worked,
Hmm.
and she died while I was on duty, and that was just absolutely traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
My experience as a private doctor now is, I'm young on the scene, going to people's homes, and obviously, one, because I'm young, there's oftentimes you may encounter people who wonder, how long have you been practicing?
Yeah.
actually know what you're doing, you know.
The question, they question your ability. They
Yes, yes.
question even, yeah.
Yeah, but then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was speaking with a very very good friend of mine just the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, she was relating, you know, a similar situation where, you know, where it seemed as if because of her age, you know, there seemed to have been, you know, some questioning of her competence, and you know, someone there to remind her of scripture that, you know, let no one despise your youth.
Yes.
Um, and so
Yeah.
what I do is I basically I preempting people's doubts at times. What I do is I just counteract that with just excellent service. Like I give
Mm-hmm.
you such great service that you don't even get a second to question whether I know what
That's
I'm doing, or if
that's
I didn't know what I was doing.
That's it. Yeah, usually our youth is questioned. I remember when I started as a youth officer, going to certain communities, people, well, some of the comments were, "Oh, this little girl, why they send this little girl to be our youth officer?" And you know, I'm not a big person.
uh,
I was very young in my early 20s, and I was questioned. So I can understand where you are concerned. That
Absolutely.
especially with something like even medicine, where you're talking about a person's
Life
life
or
and death sometimes. Oh yes, people will question that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there was one moment where I made a particular decision, and I doubted it, right? And you know, I did what I thought was the right thing, was at the moment of doubt to refer the patient to the hospital. And I was just so anxious to find out, because I know that once they got to the hospital and they ran the particular test, that
Mm-hmm.
I would know for sure whether, you know, I made the right decision or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was very early in my practice as I'm a fully private
Yeah.
doctor. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember calling up a senior colleague of mine and mentor who, you know, just really helped to calm my nerves and make me feel that, you know, it was normal to doubt your decision. And the truth is, you're at any time you make a decision as a medical doctor, you're either right or
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, there may be consequences of either of those. And you know, really and truly, you know, he spoke to me, and that helped me to, you know, calm down. And then it turned out that I did not make the wrong decision. You
That's
know,
good. That's
the
good. Yeah.
anxiety and just feeling like, oh my God, my entire career is on the line.
Oh my
At that time,
gosh.
I never had insurance as yet, and
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
you know, these different things, they come to remind us, you know, that,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're not above folly, you're not above, you know,
True. True.
you have to just remain humble, and just do the best that you can.
And I guess it's always constantly learning as well, because you will never stop learning in that field
Absolutely.
anyway. You'll never
Absolutely.
stop learning as medicine evolves very quickly, I'm sure, like a lot of other fields. And so that whole thing of keeping on top of the changes, I would say, and ensuring that you're adjusting to the various things that are coming at you, that are
Absolutely.
new. Yeah. So, yeah, you are going to have those moments. So,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to know that you're reaching out to the people, the elders, you could say, those who have been there before and who can help you to navigate those challenging and anxious moments as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm. Go ahead.
no, no,
Oh,
I was just saying absolutely.
yes. So I wanted to ask as well, in terms of your latest degree, of course, as we say, it's a master's in public health. Initially, you alluded to the fact that your mom, she was in public health, and could have been your influence. Out of everything else, you chose to do a master's in public health. Can you tell people a little bit why public health?
Okay, so I will start with the inspiration of my mother. Work as public health nurse, there are two components of it. There is the administrative component, because it meant that she led the primary healthcare, you know,
Mm-hmm.
system in
Mm-hmm.
her district as the chief nurse there.
Yeah.
But also the aspect of health promotion, um, where she would go into the with her team to the different communities throughout the Portsmouth Health District, to
Mm-hmm.
preach the good news of of staying away from chronic non-communicable diseases.
Yeah.
And so those, I would always accompany her on those excursions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just always inspired by one, the mission and the vision that is really and truly premised on the fact that an educated people should be better motivated to make better choices, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that sort
Mm-hmm.
of logic struck with me from very early. But also what struck with me was less of what happened during the period of time that these sessions were being held, but
Mm-hmm.
the small conversations that as a child I should not be listening to
Yeah.
happened before and after these events, where
Mm-hmm.
someone comes up to my mother and be like, you said this and that, but this is what I'm experiencing, and just observing that interaction. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you also get the opportunity to see when that person comes back and say, nurse, I tried this, I do this, or sometimes people just come back and just say, nurse, I'm just so grateful for what you said to me, and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
those kind of things, it's really the impact that struck me first. How public health
Mm-hmm.
is an area of specialty that really and truly focuses on tangible impact that can, literally is the difference between life
Yeah.
or living, longer versus a shorter versus a longer life expectancy and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was what drew me to it. I'm from I entered medical school. So
Mm-hmm.
in medical school, my focus kind of changed because you hear people say that if you do surgery, you can make more money, or internal medicine, and
Mm-hmm.
public
Mm-hmm.
health don't have no money. You're just going to be stuck working as a
So
public
a lot
servant.
of time it's all about the money. It's all about
Right,
a lot of
and all
people.
this stuff. But
Yeah.
so I shifted away from public health, and
Mm-hmm.
really actually, after my year of internship, I just felt drawn right back to public health.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really and truly as I started doing private practice, because in my second year in the hospital, I started doing private home visits as well. So there was a
Mm-hmm.
period of crossover.
Yeah.
And really and truly, I had a particular patient who really inspired what I chose to do as my research,
Mm-hmm.
where no matter how much I spoke to them, no matter how much, they knew that they could call me if they had any questions and so forth, there was just a barrier to translating what I said to them and what they understood and their actual actions, right?
Yeah.
Um, and, I just felt that there was a puzzle that needed to be solved, and an
Mm-hmm.
MPH would help me do that. And so I applied and
Yeah.
decided I was going to do it while working full time in the hospital. But
Yeah.
having done the program, I think it has empowered me. One, there's a management emphasis. So for the entire year of the degree, you do management courses.
Yeah.
And so that helps in terms of the administrative role that come with MPH holders. Usually
Mm-hmm.
tend to be administrators in the primary healthcare system, or
Yeah.
policymakers at the regional or international level. And so, management is definitely important. But the other aspects of it really help you understand the thinking that influences people's behavior and how their behaviors are directly linked to the state of health and all this other stuff that serve as a great adjunct for a general practitioner. And it has really helped to guide my approach to business development here at Adel Medical, and also help to guide my approach to pocket health, which I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
We really and truly seek to bridge the gaps by taking really and truly what it involves is taking an academic approach. So the academic approach to data collection and data analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and what I have chosen to do with my MPH is to use that as a means of identifying opportunities for business, right? So I look at various processes from an academic perspective and see that, okay, there is a gap, right? I cannot rely on the Ministry of Health to fill that gap.
Yeah.
Also, really and truly, realistically, may not necessarily be able to make any meaningful impact on the national stage.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely what I can do is utilize that knowledge to make an impact for those who can afford it.
Yeah.
Um, it's a capitalist view, which it's kind of shaky because we're still wrestling with this idea of how to put it. The truth of the matter is that whatever you do in life, career wise, no matter how noble it is,
Hmm.
the ultimate goal is that you need to be able to pay your bills at the end of the month,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just
You have to be able to balance the checks,
yeah, it doesn't
and
matter
balance of it.
whatever
Yeah.
impact you
Yeah.
want to have,
Yeah.
if you cannot afford to have that impact,
Hmm.
Um, and so the commercial aspect of healthcare is something that we're still wrestling with in the
Yeah.
Caribbean. In first world countries, you see advertisement like the advertising BBL like a sweetie and lollipop. If you do that in the Caribbean, then some regulatory agency is going to come at you.
Hmm.
But basically, that is really what I decided to do, to use my
Okay.
MPH
Yeah.
to advance my approaches to medical business. And
All right. I like that. You definitely had a plan. You definitely took time to study what it is you wanted to do to guide you, and not just for now, but I think the bigger picture, you projecting into future, wanting that level of independence as well, but also always evolving, always being able to contribute to the new developments as well, and doing it from a scientific point of view, that it's empirically based, that it's sound. You spoke about data collection. You spoke about so even constantly researching as well, to making sure that yeah, it's only when we constantly take our data that we can
Mhm.
adjust things, we can amend, we can fix, or we can better situations. So that's great. I like that angle that you have pursued thus far. And I believe there is more studies for you. You're so young. Um, I can foresee that there is a lot more that you will possibly be doing. I want to ask you, and I know that you're based in Jamaica. You're talking about doing pocket health, which is probably going to be in Jamaica. I meant to ask you, is that also going to be applicable in other parts of the world, in the region? First of all, and then maybe have you thought about serving in your country? So let's talk about pocket health in Jamaica and if it's applicable first in other places, and then have you thought about serving Dominica in anyway? And let me ensure that I establish that
Mhm.
when you were studying during COVID and you came home, you served, you volunteered, you gave time in the COVID hospital. You literally went amidst all your challenges. You went out and volunteered. So I know that your heart is home as well. But I'm asking the
Absolutely.
question anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, with regards to pocket health, the
Mm-hmm.
vision is always gonna be bigger than my pocket, right? And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
um, that's a wonderful thing. The vision absolutely is to eventually launch out into whatever market that
Mm-hmm.
willing to receive such an innovation.
Okay.
But one of the benefits of Jamaica is that it is a small economy relative to the big
Mm-hmm.
economies in the
Mm-hmm.
world, but
Yeah.
relative to countries like Dominica and all of the islands in the Eastern Caribbean, it is a
Mm-hmm.
it is a
Mm-hmm.
bigger market,
Yeah.
and so it lends itself to a lot more opportunities for innovation, to take financial risks, business
Mm-hmm.
risks, because there's just enough people that you're able to say, okay, in a worst case scenario, I can at least break even and just know
Yeah.
that I tried this and it never worked.
Yeah.
On the best case scenario, you can have a good company that only serves the Jamaican market, and you can be fine depending on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely the goal is to expand eventually. So we see, definitely utilize Jamaica's ground zero, um,
Mm-hmm.
and expand accordingly.
Okay. No, your teacher, your former teacher, she's here and she's saying she wants to publicly thank you for your support of her daughter, Delight, medically and generally as she strives to complete her degree. And of course, she and her family, they are grateful. Isn't
Well,
that funny that this lady taught you and now you?
she, she knows better, to know that she doesn't need to thank me publicly. But it's again one of those full circle moments that
Yes.
look back and it just because she taught me in kindergarten.
Yeah.
I remember when she had a child. I remember seeing her child as a baby.
Yes.
Probably like maybe 5, 7 years apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then she ends up being in Jamaica studying. And so again, it takes community. It takes community,
Hmm.
and I always look forward to those opportunities, and I do it a million times over. Because again, many people did it for me.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just trying to be light and life.
I
Yes.
love that.
So,
I
no
love
problem. So, second question now.
Yes. Yes.
If I've considered serving in Dominica,
Yeah. At any point, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying like, is this something that you see that you would love to do, that you desire to do? Tell us.
absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Hmm.
I do well. I'm going to approach it from multiple fronts, right?
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the just from the point of civic duty, I think we all have a duty to our homeland. That is a fundamental duty, whether you look at it from a spiritual perspective or just a moral perspective. Dominica has been absolutely great to me. I am proud to be one that I can say that I'm Dominican grown. Every single strength that I have, anything that is worth commending, I can
Hmm.
point to a foundation in some experience back home.
Yeah.
And so I think I have an obligation to do this, to be that for someone else at home. And so I definitely have a desire to come back at some point. All of us cannot leave, but also from all of us who do leave, all of us cannot stay out. And I do respect those who, based on whatever their priorities in life are, they may have a different, different view on that. I just believe, for me personally, that I have a duty to return. And obviously, I have a duty to myself and what would be my family at the point in time, to ensure that, if I do move back, or when I do move back, it is the right time, for me and my family. But I definitely have a desire to serve, Dominica, whether it be as a medical professional, working as a medical doctor, or in consultancy, or in policy development, or in political office, or in religious office. I do have a desire. The other perspective I would look at it from is that, again, I mentioned earlier that I've chosen to take a very positive view at my experience, in medical school. I always tell people that there are Dominicans who did things to me or did not do things for me, but
Hmm.
Dominica
Hmm.
did nothing to me.
That's
And so I will always be a proud Dominican,
right. Hmm.
everywhere I go. Independence is coming. Best believe I'm going to be in my national wear on
Same
for
here.
Sunday. That is
Yes.
how we
That's
do it.
right. That's right.
Everybody who knows me and hears me will always know that I come from Dominica, and I'm not
Hmm.
trying to buy no other citizenship.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
so I definitely have such deep love and passion for my country that sometimes I literally cannot. Sometimes I have to deliberately not listen to news from my country,
Hmm.
or deliberately not participate in discussions about my country, because I feel so passionate about it. And then I'm a very when I'm passionate about something, I'm very vocal. And you know how it is. I think
Yes,
it's
you were taught to be you were taught to be vocal. You
not
were
to be
taught to
vocal,
be vocal.
right?
Yeah.
But we all know that being vocal is not always
Yeah.
the path of greatest comfort.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, I
So
definitely do want to come back at some point.
I'm happy to hear that. No, when I asked the question, I was specifically thinking about serving as a medical doctor. But I heard other things which were interesting and heartwarming at the same time. So I heard about ministry, probably as a preacher, as a pastor, as a you can be anything. You can be anything that you want to be. And of course, I also heard even in public office as a possibly a politician, but not merely a politician, but someone serving at the highest level, being able to contribute to policy making and so on. Am I
Absolutely.
correct? Am I accurate in saying that?
You are very correct. You're as correct can be. Uh,
Okay.
so we'll see what God's will is.
Yes.
What I would say is that at minimum I'm not closing my heart to the possibility. Absolutely, I'm not closing my heart to the possibility because I think God has definitely given me the aptitude from a leadership perspective. All throughout my academic career, I've served in leadership positions, and just an objective analysis of my strengths would probably find me suitable for the quintessential politician, except though,
Hmm.
and it's my mother's biggest fear, because she don't like to hear when I talk about political aspirations, because we
Same
all
here.
know
My
how
mom's
the,
too.
how the political scene is and so forth.
Yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
what? No. As I said to her, I understand, and I appreciate the because I know it's coming from a place of love.
Hmm.
No mother wants to, or father really and truly wants to see their
Hmm.
child experience any of the negative aspects of public life.
Yeah.
But I just think some of us are made, to take on that risk. And I do also believe that despite the stereotypes with regards to politics and politicians, that as Caribbean people, we are not, it is not beneath us to pursue a clean politics that puts the people first.
True.
And to the extent that I believe that we are capable of that as a Caribbean people, then I
Hmm.
cannot exempt myself from consideration for such noble offices in public life. And so I just submit myself as a servant of God,
Yeah.
and yield to whatever His leaning is wherever I am. So
That's great to know. I think too often people or parents, they're afraid of what we could possibly get involved in politically because of all the negative
yeah.
rhetoric that goes on, and the vilifying of people's personality. Just so many nasty things really being done to and about politicians on a whole. Small islands. It's not just even in Dominica. Like some of the expressions of our people are just not becoming. And so I can understand the parents' hesitation in seeing his or her child getting involved in politics. But I believe politics is made for people, not for animals. It's made for people. You know what I mean? Like people must, if we don't have, as much as politicians have all sorts of day food and people say all manner of things about them, but if we do not have politicians, we do not have governments. If
Indeed.
you, if you really think about it, in a democracy, if we don't have politicians, we don't really have governments. I mean, we don't have the people who ought to actually make the policies for us and review the laws and all of that. So we need good people. We need people yes, we need people who are God fearing, who
I
people who
totally
are,
agree.
yes, who
Totally
are bold and
agree.
people with values to go in there and give directions to our nation. So I'm happy to hear you as a young man say that.
And I want to take it a step further to say
Hmm.
that the truth of the matter is that most people, I
Yeah.
would have to reckon probably more now than before.
Hmm.
People
Hmm.
get to travel, but the vast majority of Dominicans are not going to get to travel to go and
Yeah.
experience firsthand what exists outside.
True.
Um, Notwithstanding that, I mean, in 2025, you have the internet that allows you to have experiences that your our foreparents could only dream of. You could be
Hmm.
in Taiwan and never leave the comfort of your home, and have an experience as if you were just there. But the point really and truly is that one of the challenges that I have as an adult, as an intellectual, is really and truly understanding how it is that many of us who have the opportunity to leave Dominica
Mm-hmm.
see how things function elsewhere, particularly in societies and economies that you can objectively say are model economies,
Mm-hmm.
model societies for success. You think of a country, for example, like Singapore, that
Yeah.
literally came to Jamaica and looked at its systems of governance, went back home, used that as a foundation, except
Mm-hmm.
they perfected inconsistencies and inefficiencies and that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
Singapore is a success story, and Singapore is younger than many of our islands in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I often wonder why our nations are not exploring more the Singapore's model, because I
Well,
believe there is so much to learn. Although it's interesting to learn that they came in, observed the system, went back and tweak and better and applied to their locality, and it's working for them so much. So we now have to go back and study
tell you
them
why,
as best
I can,
practice.
I can tell you why, and that will be my only digression on the political front. But,
Okay.
but you see,
Yeah.
the challenge in my assessment is
Yeah.
that many of our islands became independent of Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but rather than seeking to replace an inherently oppressive
Yeah.
system that was never meant to result in the success of the black man, right? Rather than
Mm-hmm.
to replace that with a system that is by the people, for the people, and actually prioritizes the people,
Mm-hmm.
what we find in our societies we've done is basically replace the face of oppression, right? So we've changed it from a white face to a face that looks like ours, right? And so all we keep trying to do is to make ourselves into little kings and queens. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously, the nature of life is such that nothing lasts forever. All
That's
of
right.
this is fleeting and temporal. And so all we have is the rise and falls of his and her majesties, right? And in the and at the end of the day, what we have to show for it is next to nothing. What we have to show for it is a majority of people who continue to be reliant on public public programs to meet their sustenance rather than the actual blood, sweat,
Independence.
tears, and investment, right? So under Devon Booster government, I'm joking.
You never know, bro. You never know. You just never know. I don't know. You quickly said you're joking, but who knows? Who
maybe,
knows?
maybe at some point we're gonna replay this clip.
Sorry, Nurse Brewster. Sorry. Yes, but under Devon Brewster government, I mean, maybe speaking fictionally for now, or hypothetically for now. Yes, what would it be?
Under we actually under Devon Booster government system. You see, first of all, we're gonna have to balance our wants and our
Yeah.
needs. We're gonna have to balance our short-term comfort with
Mm-hmm.
the comfort, peace, and tranquility of our children and our children's children. And
Right.
the reality is that striking that balance is going to require tough decisions. Is going to require some amount of discomfort, because again, if you even look at the same Singapore and you study it closely, you would
Mm-hmm.
recognize that they underwent periods of what could be modestly summarized as discomfort to give them the kind of comfort and peace that they have today, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have to do that, and that means ensuring that the engines of economic growth, agriculture, energy, tourism, manufacturing, industry,
Technology.
commerce, and
Technology.
healthcare, technology, education,
Mm-hmm.
all of these have to be that whatever plan that is put in place has to balance all of these concurrently. We cannot afford as a small economy to focus on the hotel sector and our roads are in shambles. Right? We cannot envision a future that is technologically driven when it is that our educational system is still stuck in the 19 way, right? It's going to require a lot of innovation. It's going to require a lot of effort, but we have to do it. And if we don't do it now, we're going to pay the price. And we're already starting to see the price being paid because, I mean, whenever I return to Dominica and just go to Portsmouth, the three things strike me. One, uh, when I was younger, I just felt that the place was a lot more bustling. As in, there was a lot more activity. As in, lunchtime, there were actually people on the road rushing to get lunch, whether it be, you go in by the park or wherever, get some food for it to get back to work. I just feel like Sunday to Sunday, Portsmouth feels like a ghost town. The second thing is that I'm seeing a lot of persons who are my age, who I went to school with, who might have been a year or two above or below me or at my year, just on the side of the road doing nothing. And that is their life. Like that is the norm for them, just being on the side of the road, not gainfully employed. And I'm saying that that is not the recipe for future economic growth. We have to empower young people. The average young person in the country cannot be facing a reality whereby the only way out they can see is literally out of the country. That's a problem, right?
Yes.
Because when they go out and they're enticed by the things of the world, they're not going to come back.
Yeah, we lose a lot of our people that way. But I will be quick to say that I don't know that the person is a ghost town. I don't subscribe to that per se.
Yeah.
But I do agree that there are some elements of people who are loitering the streets, like some of our young men who are not gainfully employed as they ought to be, some by choice, and I dare say that as well, some by choice.
Sure.
However, also think that there could be more opportunities created for them. And you spoke about, some of the social services. I would say that I think empowerment of people to lead towards more independence
Absolutely.
of them and their families would be the best way to go. Obviously, one has to start somewhere. So, for example, giving somebody a home who does not have a home, I think that's important. You cannot stay on the street. You have to definitely be um, you have to be given some kind of, you could say, incentive or some kind of assistance to get on a footing, but also creating the avenues, creating the possibilities for the person to develop his or herself. I won't call the town a ghost town. I'm not there. I've not been there for the last 10 months, I should say. Obviously, so I don't want to say Portsmouth is a ghost town, but I'm not in Portsmouth to say
Well,
it. Um,
really and truly, the truth is that
yeah,
sometimes in the heat of when you're empathically expressing something,
yeah,
use that really and truly amongst the hyperbole,
yeah,
in the grand scheme of things. But the really and truly what the intention is to communicate is the stark contrast between
yeah.
my experience as a child
Mhm.
and my experience, even when I was there for the 4 months, obviously in the pandemic, but since then I've visited like three or four times, and
Yeah.
personal experiences. Really and truly, what it's really alluding to is just the fact that you know there was a lot more to do. There were a lot more businesses that were open that that stimulated economic activity and this sort of stuff that
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, and the truth of the matter is that many of them are issues that are beyond our control. But I think there's enough that is within our control that a different approach
Mhm, mhm.
within the framework of national development could yield better success. And generally, it is an issue across the Caribbean. Many of these issues are not unique to
Mhm.
Dominica. They are very similar across the region. And that's why I'm very pro CARICOM. I
Yeah.
believe the future is CARICOM. We are in very turbulent waters,
Very,
more turbulent
very.
than we've ever been.
Yeah.
And I also just don't think that enough is being done to sensitize the common man about the reality of where we are in the world And for all this time, us being and feeling, relatively safe and protected by powerful neighbors to the north,
Hmm. No
east,
more.
so no,
No more.
no.
No
So
more.
you have to, the young person would do well to envision themselves beyond the boundaries of Dominica, and envision themselves, see themselves as a global citizen, right?
And
We have.
I'm happy, sorry, just to stick a pin there, to see ourselves as global citizens. I'm happy that you said that, because one of the things I was doing, and it kind of wants, I kind of want to segue a little bit into that. And I know that we're a little bit on our time, but this is so important, that aspect of the dialogue. You are, and I wanted to segue into the whole confirmation matter, where, for example, a person is residing, like you and I, we're both residing outside of Dominica. Um, and there obviously are those who are pro confirmation, those who are against confirmation, etc. But my thought over this whole experience is that if, for example, you and I decide that's not for us, I'm not going to get involved in that process. And considering how the world is such a global village, as much as we are global citizens, we are living in a global village where the world, in my view, at this point is extremely volatile. So, in the event where you're in Jamaica, I'm in Turks and Caicos, in the event that push comes to shove, where do we go to?
Right. You have to be able to go back home.
Where do we go to? We go back to our country. So, the important aspect of us being citizens of a country, citizens of our island, and of course, citizens of CARICOM, because we've seen what Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Belize have been doing, trying to create that network already, which is what we need more across the board. With that, we are CARICOM citizens, we are global citizens, we are citizens of our nations. We cannot just bury our heads in the sand and say, "I'm not. That's not for me. That's not my business."
You
because
see,
because we must have a voice, and we must have a part to play, and a developmental part at that. Not just saying I'm a citizen of Dominica and I love Dominica, but
right.
but being able to actually utilize what is our power to show that we love our island.
I totally agree with you. And I know exactly what you're hinting at, and even also just the experience of being someone in the diaspora, right?
Mhm.
I think it definitely is a conversation that needs to be
Yeah,
had. It needs to be, very well ventilated, across various sectors of society. How it is that we measure the well, first of all, how we measure the how someone in diaspora contributes back home, and
yes,
how we define the rights of a citizen of Dominica, based on where they are and where they spend the majority of the time. I do think that there has to be some sort of separation between those whose majority lived experience is on the island versus those who have a historical, cultural, or even a frequent travel relationship with the
yeah,
country, but
yeah.
the majority of the experience is not in the country.
Mhm.
But that has to be clearly defined. And I think it would serve us better to have a clearly defined, seamless pathway through which people who are in the diaspora can reintegrate into society if
Yeah.
and when that time comes, regardless of the impetus for same, right?
Hmm.
One of the issues that we have is that we live in a society where we have very low trust for one another. And it really is also to a remnant of the success that has been colonization, right? So if it is that you're not going to trust us to lead you, then we're going to make sure that you don't trust each other to lead yourselves,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
we can't we praise these first world countries, like for example the US, that allows persons to be able to mail in their votes from different parts of the world and all this kind of stuff. And we don't envision that we are able to similarly invest in the kind of infrastructure
yeah.
that will create an avenue for persons
Trust,
to honestly
trust.
participate in the electoral process and other processes back home, right?
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
one, we don't trust those participating to do it honestly. We
Hmm.
also don't trust those who have administrative powers to not abuse it to their
Hmm.
own benefit. And so what is the result? we
Yeah.
remain in a state of backwardness as
Mm.
opposed to moving forward with that which
Yeah.
can help to push us to the success that we want. It's
Mm.
high time for us to reimagine a reality whereby persons who are Dominicans overseas are able to participate beyond sending remittances, beyond sending barrel, and beyond coming for carnival and for independence. But it has to be within the framework of transparency,
Mm-hmm.
of ethical conduct, both of the individual citizen. And that's it, you know. The thing about it is that we like to complain about politicians, but politicians come from a pool of citizens, right?
and
And
and they are empowered by these people. Well, I just say a pool, yes,
of course,
exactly.
of
And,
course.
and we don't hold them accountable as we ought to.
Yeah, but the truth is though is that for example, corruption and that is an issue all across the region, right?
Hmm.
Corruption
Hmm.
is an issue,
Yeah.
and it has been an issue forever. It almost feels like it will forever be an issue. Why? Because individually we are oftentimes inherently corrupt in our practices, right?
Hmm.
We are not willing to accept that it is corrupt because we are wired to believe that insofar as we can benefit and insofar as it can go under the radar, then there is no issue, right? But the challenge is that all of these little corrupt practices that we engage in to help make our life better, whether it be by choice or the system just pressure us, are the same pressures that the same citizens who we elect to become politicians have to face as well. And when you can, you have to. I don't believe that any politician is dumb. I would really want to not think that any politician is dumb. So you have to actually sit down and calculate what are my chances. What are the chances of this? Affecting my political career. And the truth of the matter is that many things that you can objectively sit down and think of, can I get away with this? You can get away with it in our region and you won't get away with it in the first world countries.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to
So,
do better from our politicians, is what I'm
mhm.
saying.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think we need to demand more in terms of who we choose to be our politicians, one, and when we choose them, to demand a certain standard from them, and to be able to say, well, nah, I don't think I want this person because I want this person because, and to do it collectively, not even necessarily just alone. I think that is sometimes where we go astray. We get into the hype of things. We get into the excitement of the times. Let's say it's election or whatever, but we get lost. We forget the things that really matter, like the details and the key factors. But let us go back because we have definitely. I don't want to call it digress because it came from a place where I asked you whether you would be willing to serve your country, and of course that was one aspect. And I think you have, from what you've shared here, in towards the political slant. There is so much that you have to offer. There is so much education that you can also extend to your generation. I say your generation because your generation is younger than mine, and I am hopeful. Like, I listen to you, and I am extremely hopeful because I believe that it is groundbreaking what you can offer to the nation, even from where you are. And I am happy that you said, one, that we are a global citizen, and also the emphasizing the importance of CARICOM, what it is and what it should be to us as individuals, living in a region where once upon a time we thought was safe. And I was really pondering on that today, and to see how even divided we are now, considering Trinidad's stance and the rest of CARICOM, asking for the respect of our region's waters, for example, and so on. So there is a lot, and we cannot, in isolation, just exist. We have to look at it on a broader picture and recognize that we are living in a really, really volatile time. But we need people like you, obviously, and I believe you have a lot to contribute to humanity. Yes, as a medical doctor, and we're so proud of that medical doctor and what it is that you have and what you will be bringing to the fore Um, but I also believe, as you said, there's no limitation to what it is you can become and how you can serve. So people like me are just, I won't be on the periphery. I'll probably be closer to you than on the periphery. You know, I'm always in here. I'm always gonna be looking out for what Devon is doing. Um, sorry, yeah, what Devon is doing, and also just your growth, because I believe that you are one of those young persons that give us hope, and there is a prospect in you. I want to quickly ask you about the concerns, and we kind of spoke a little bit about it in terms of Portsmouth and our town. Being from Portsmouth, you, myself, you're a young man. I have been extremely concerned, of course, and a lot of other people about what the latest thing that has gone down in our community most recently over the past few weeks, where we've lost a few lives. In in the town through gun violence. I would want to ask your thoughts as a young man on that situation. You don't have to say too much, but maybe just what are your thoughts and what would you say to the young people, especially the young men? If your message could reach them, what would you say to them at this time?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it's a sad state of affairs. And even it doesn't matter where in the world you are as a Dominican. Hearing the news that we're hearing coming out, especially from Portsmouth in the last couple of weeks, is enough to just just it's just heart wrenching. What I would say to any young person, especially the young men who seem to fit that particular stereotype, is really and truly there are other ways. There are other ways. I think we unfortunately, but fortunately, we have way too many examples of the particular path that leads to a particular end.
Mhm.
There's just no doubt about it. And the sad reality is that we're seeing so many of our young men on that path. And for too many of us, it's really just a matter of time. There are better ways to find enjoyment from life. I can tell you this much, right? That there's no sweeter feeling than getting up in the morning, you're going to work. You at the end of the month, at the end of the fortnight, you get your money that you work for, and you take your money and you buy the things that you need, right?
I, I think for me that is where I always ponder a lot about on sorry. Like I always wonder, is it that they are insatiable? Is it that there is no amount of monthly salary that could possibly get some of these people who get into that zone, into that way of life, with the quick, fast,
Right.
bulk stuff that comes and goes rather quickly? Is it that the month is too long for them to wait, and that even when they get it, it's not enough? It will never be enough. Because I wonder,
Well,
I don't know.
the thing about it, is that I tend to look at it from a more clinical perspective, right? For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
These lifestyles are fueled by addictions, right? Whether it be addictions to drugs, whether it be addictions to the dopamine that and everything that comes with this bad man style and all this kind of stuff. Whatever it is, it's fueled by an addiction. And so really and truly, employment is not the only solution. Employment is part of the solution. It's really a reordering of the mind that must take place, right? But the challenge is that the approach has to be holistic. It has to be both preventative and curative at the same time, right? We cannot choose to try to cure the problem, right, without taking preventative measures to ensure that the young men and women that are coming up today don't end up taking that path that we then have to find a way to cure, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to make the interventions at the home. The interventions have to start at the home, right? The challenges that we have is that we live in a society that has normalized the broken homes,
Yeah.
right? So we have children having children. We're having homes where fathers are absent, and all these sort of stuff that have some sort of correlation with a particular pathway. We cannot rely on the church alone. The church has a role
Mm-hmm.
to Church
Mm-hmm.
has a big role to play.
Yeah.
We can't rely only on the education system, but the education system has a big role to play. But it
Sure.
starts at home, right? We have to take preventative and curative measures. I think that we're past redemption? No, I don't think that we're past redemption. I just think it requires a strategic realignment of resources and priorities, to get it under control. Because we have our neighbors that we can look at. We have neighbors we can look at for examples of what not to do. We have
Mm-hmm.
neighbors that we can look at for examples of what to do, right? What has worked. And we think, for example, like right now, Jamaica is experiencing an unprecedented reduction in
Reduction.
violent
Yeah.
crimes and
Yeah.
this stuff in
Mm-hmm.
the last year to year and a half. Right? It's still left to be determined how lasting that will be.
Mm-hmm.
But for the success
Yeah.
that already had, it's enough, I believe, for countries like ours to come in and find out what is it that
What
they
is
did,
it that they're doing? Yeah.
because our economy is just too small and too
Mm-hmm.
fragile to survive the threat
Yeah.
of crime and violence. So I just really hope that you know it's another wake up call,
Mm-hmm.
but we really don't need another
No.
person to die.
No.
We don't need it. We just need the powers that be to recognize it as an issue and to take some deliberate steps
Yeah.
to change the fate. It's an all of community approach. We cannot rely on government
Mm-hmm.
um, alone, but we also
Only.
cannot
Yeah.
rely on the society to just self-regulate. It's an active process, and so yeah.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you for that point of view. I want to commend, as you're saying, it's a community effort as well. I want to commend the various churches from the town, within the town, last evening, who had a non-denominational walk. It was a prayer walk, from what I understood, and it's a pity things like these don't get publicity as they ought to,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
they're not sensational enough. They're slanted towards too much of a good side, and I think people like the lele, if that's a term I can use that term. You know what I mean? The rural. A lot
Mhm.
of people will run to that, but the things that are succinct, the things that are deep, the things that are meaningful. That scripture verse that says all that is noble, all that is good.
Mhm.
Spend your time thinking about these. Those things don't get enough valuable covering, you could say, and support, unfortunately. But I want to commend those churches. It was, from what I understood, a number of different churches from the town, within the town, who got together on the streets and extended prayers for the country, prayers for the young people, especially the young men. Stopped in strategic locations in the town and really offered a word of prayer, because as much as we can talk, prayer is so important, as well as the actions of policymakers and just everybody coming together and doing something to create awareness. And you spoke about ensuring that we are proactive, in the sense that we can prevent things like this from happening before they even occur. So I always wanted somebody like you to just weigh in, briefly on that subject. So thank you for that.
Sure
Our
thing.
time is coming, so I want to kind of ask you to give us um, your final comments, about your achievement, of course, your way forward, and of course, anything else that you might want to bring in there, maybe your gratitude to whomever you want to express that. But before that, I just want to, express my own thanks to all those who are here tonight on the platform. Interestingly, I was just checking my Facebook account, and I noticed that my live on my main page is not, the privacy setting has limited me from being seen by other people, and although I try to change it, it's not changing. So I'm not sure if it's Facebook that's locking me out. I don't know
Uh,
what nonsense is that, but
so you
um,
have to share the link, the YouTube link.
yeah, so I had to go to my other page and try to share it onto that page, but it's something I will look into going forward.
Yeah.
I've had some very good discussions, but I can tell you, Facebook has really been choking me, like
Uh,
really choke. I don't know what's going on for the
uh,
last few weeks, but I'll get over it in time. I want to thank the folks who are on YouTube. I can see that most of the people who are viewing and they comment and commenting are from YouTube. So it's clear that Facebook has been very low, but it's gonna be on Facebook, so people will be able to see it anyway going forward. Um, Hopefully this is not our last dialogue, maybe about other things maybe, but I want to commend you on your achievement, and of course wish you all the best for the success. So go ahead and tell us what your closing remarks, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in closing, I want to
Sorry, go ahead. I'm not sure, you kind of froze there. uh, isn't
oh,
that something? Yes, you can
uh,
start over because you're completely frozen for a while there. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Right. So I would start off by just saying gratitude, expressing my gratitude to God for
Mhm.
first of all, calling me to this particular path and guiding me on this path, despite the challenges that came on,
Mhm.
and for placing persons in my life across the length and breadth of the region, the world, who have supported me and enabled me to achieve all that I've achieved thus far. Everything that I've ever achieved is first of all to God's glory,
Amen.
and then secondly, to to hopefully have a positive impact on the world, while ensuring that I still have food on my table.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
um, I do believe that I don't fancy myself as anything special. I do believe that we all have the capacity
Yeah.
to achieve, and insofar as I have the ability to help someone else succeed, I will.
Yeah.
And I'm always ready to help within the limits of what my time and talents can allow. I'm passionate about my country, and definitely willing, even from now and where I sit in Jamaica, contribute as best as I
Yeah.
can. So really and truly, it's an open invitation to persons to reach out, whether it be to prearrange something for whenever I'm in Dominica to still speak with any
Yeah.
young people, that sort of stuff. These
Mhm.
are things
Mhm.
that not just naturally able to do, but I actually live for those moments because I enjoy
Yeah.
doing so. And definitely, as I move up in life, and
Yeah.
as I become more and more successful according to whatever God's will, and God blesses me, there will be signs, and
Yes.
signs will be in my efforts to give back to whatever legitimate means that are available. And so I
Mhm.
really actually look forward to being able to have that sort of impact on my community. For persons who are my age group, younger than me, or even persons who are older who have any sort of dream or any aspiration to do something, my response, my encouragement to you is to get up and do it. Right? It doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy. It's not going to always be a walk in the park, and you should not allow challenges that you face to discourage you from the chase. Right? Keep chasing after your dream, and once you have the right set of people behind you, the right intentions, and most importantly, once you are grounded, right? You have to be grounded.
Mhm.
You have to be grounded in something, because if you're not grounded, if you're not grounded in something, then it means that the limits of what you push yourself to, or even the standards to which you hold yourself would be limited to the limit of the human imagination and the human body. And I can promise you, as a as a young 27-year-old unmarried man who's trying to live his life on the straight and narrow, the limits of the imagination and the body is very wild,
Mhm.
right? And so you have to be in something, you have to be grounded in something far greater than just the temporal.
Mhm.
Will keep you as best as possible above the fray, right?
True.
And keep you on a particular path that makes you a beautiful addition to society rather than a menace, right?
Yes.
So yeah. I that is me, and I look forward to another opportunity to share
All
with you.
right. Well, thank you so much. You have a lot to share. You threw out the invitation to the folks at home whenever they're home and they know that you're coming, that they should find a way to ensure that they take advantage of your presence in a positive way by engaging you to engage other young people. I just wanted to share with you some of the comments of some of the folks who are viewing. You have somebody who you know very well, I'm sure, Camille Michael Patterson. I think this could be somebody that you worked with.
No,
Um,
she's my church sister.
Here we go.
Okay.
Okay. She says, great story. Of course, she was giving glory to God with you. And she had a phrase that I liked, the method in Methodism,
Methodist.
blessings. Yes. And then you also have Alicia, who you know very well,
Yeah,
always in your
this is
corner.
number one fan. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. Your number one fan. She was talking here about the young boys and addiction to quick
Yeah.
money, which is something you alluded to earlier. And then you
Mhm.
have O Harker, who
Yes.
says you are special.
Yeah, Opal is another church sister, but interesting. Opal is an Anglican, so I play at different churches. I play at
Nice,
Anglican, Methodist, United, Baptist,
excellent. Oh
Honor
my
Road.
God,
So I have the support of persons
so
across
many
denominations.
people.
And
That's
she's one of
amazing.
them. Yeah, she's one of
This
my
is
Anglican sisters.
very nice. This is ecumenism at its best.
Absolutely,
It's really
absolutely.
great. Yeah, and of course she says congratulations to you as well. So
Thanks
I
so
want to
much.
thank all the folks. Those of you who have been viewing on YouTube, of course, I kindly ask you to subscribe to my channel if you've not yet done so. Share it with other people. This is a story worth hearing. This young man, he is distinguished. I like to call him that. He says he's just an ordinary person, but I think he's also special, just like you, O Harker, who says that he's special. I too think so, because he he's he's 27, but he has wisdom beyond his age, obviously, and it has a lot to do with the people who grew him up, who exposed him to that kind of environment of growth. His church community that I know so well, and so I am extremely proud of you, Doc, and I am thankful as well that you accepted to come on my mini platform. I don't have no extravagant followers, and you know what I mean. So it's not about that. It's for me. I think it's important to chronicle your achievement from where you were to where you are today, and I can foresee where you are going. So
So
thank you
the,
so much.
the last thing I want to say
Yes.
is thanks to you for yes, for inviting me to your platform for the second time.
Mhm.
The truth of in fact, a friend of mine asked me today, how did I get connected with you? And I told him,
Okay.
you just sent me a message on Facebook as you normally do.
Yes.
One of the things is that Miss Paul, you've always been someone that I look up to in the community, as just a pillar of morality and spirituality and example. What I actually remember today was, I remember sometime I must have been in high school, and I had some personal issue, and I just randomly messaged you on Facebook, and asked you, whatever. I don't remember the details of it, and
I
you.
remember now that you said it. Yes, right.
But the thing about it that is just so
Yeah.
powerful is that it's not to say that I had any encounter with you at church. Let's say you were
Yeah.
my youth leader or anything, because you're Catholic and Methodist. I never sat in any forum where you were. It was squarely just a young man seeing someone in his community who was an example, that by her utterances, by the way that she lived her life, that I felt comfortable to just randomly message you about XYZ. And you were just so willing to help. And I think it's, again, these experiences, having people like you as example, help to shape people like me. And so I can help to shape someone else. And
Somebody else.
thank you as well, for definitely being a wonderful example that you've always been.
Thank you for sharing that. Just like you said earlier, you're not perfect. I'm not, but I really strive to just walk the straight and narrow. It's been a rough few years, but I thank God that He continues, just like you, to keep me. He continues to keep me. And yes, I know that you said that, I remember. There are things I do that I don't remember at all, to be honest. But now that you said that, I remember you did reach out sometime, and I was Of course, always willing to help any young person who reach out to me. And I just saw how authentic you were about what it is that you were expressing as well. So I'm thankful that you saw me as somebody you could trust and reach out to. And I'm grateful to God if I was of any little help to you at that point. So thank
So
you. I love your parents. I love Mr. Brewster. I love your mom. I just think they are good people, and I
absolutely.
appreciate them, and I appreciate you, of course. So continue to be who you are and continue to make us proud in our part of the world. All right.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much.
much. And
Have a good evening and a great rest of the week.
maybe I should ask you to pray for us before you leave.
Sure,
Thank you.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Let us
Yeah.
pray. Great God, we come before you this evening, giving thanks, therefore, dear God, for blessing us to see another day. We've come to the end of another day that many persons did not have the blessing of. And so we give you thanks, dear God. We worship you, Lord God. We come also knowing that we are not worthy to approach your throne of our own merit, but Lord, because your Son Jesus Christ came and died on the cross, dear Father God, we have access. And so for that, we are grateful. We pray to God for each and every one that's within the reach of my voice in internet land. I pray to God that whatever challenges that we're going through individually or collectively, oh God, that by your divine providence and your will, that you will come to the aid of those of us who need it most. Dear God, we pray that your will be done in our lives individually. We pray especially for our town of Portsmouth and our country of Dominica. We pray in particular also for the entire region that is underground and that's experiencing a kind of quiet, insidious instability, the likes of which we've never experienced before. We pray, dear God, that you will open the hearts and minds of our leaders, dear God, that they will be inclined to seek the wisdom that comes from above as we seek to navigate these challenging waters. But more importantly, dear God, that you will bless the average citizen with the kind of foresight to clearly demand the better from our leaders, dear God, that in so doing, our nations, our country of Dominica and the nations of the CARICOM, oh God, and see the kind of prosperity that we definitely have the capacity to achieve. Oh God, we pray in particular for those who are inflicted with, whatever ills in society that result that causes them to resort to and violence. Pray to God that, by the power of the Holy Spirit, that some intervention and interventions can seek to reverse that destiny, oh God. And we pray to God that we can seek to realign the minds of the average young man and young woman to point towards honest success, oh God, rather than quick and fleeting gratification that often and result in violent deaths. We pray, that God, that your will be done in all of our lives and that you'll have your will through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. God bless you and thank you. God bless all of you guys. Thank you all for staying on and come again the next time that we're having another authentic exchange. Thank you. We'll keep in touch, Doc. All right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Take care now. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. God bless all of you and come again. You will know when I have another authentic exchange. In the meantime, if I post a video, if you want to know when I post a video, just hit the notification bell on my YouTube the channel and or subscribe, and you will most likely know when I'm on again. It's a pleasure having all of you. Those of you on Facebook as well, thank you so much. I'm going to work on that Facebook thing. Obviously, it was a bit challenging. It still is, but it's going to work out in time. God bless all of you. Thank you. Come again. And it was great having another authentic exchange with all of you. Bye.